All right. So as I wrote in my recent blog post, the last episode, yes, you picked up on it. I was a little discombobulated because of the thing with my neighbor, and I was fixated, right? So I really couldn't devote all of the attention I wanted to on the script. I don't know if you had a chance to read the entire script, and if you didn't, that's fine. I'll just point out the new additions.
Mm-hmm.
I did my best to read your handwriting, and I think I got most of it, and I coupled it with the recording, so I think I got everything. Like, I think I addressed your major concerns.
Okay. I'm pulling it up here, too.
All right. And I think you're going to be happy with the changes, especially to the speech. The speech that Jebediah gives.
Mm.
I just love that name. Just love saying that name. Jebediah.
You want to give kind of the rest of the context of what you prepared for this episode?
So, of course. So, the other half of what I was feeling last week is I really felt like I was approaching a kind of dead zone for the rest of the script. Not that I didn't have an idea of where I wanted to go with the script, but I didn't have the details. I didn't have the connective tissue that got us from scene to scene to scene. And it's, I guess maybe just my process. I hate not knowing the roadmap. Mm-hmm. And when I don't, it's just a leap of faith, and you're just hoping, I hope this is good. I hope this works. So I thought, okay, this week, what I would do is focus on, actually, Brian and I kind of talked about it a little bit. I would just kind of create these little bullet points, just like, blank piece of paper, put my thoughts down of where I would take the movie, different things that would happen, little details. And as I was writing it, and I did it this morning. I started this morning, and I was writing until like 2:00. So think like 6:30 to 2:00 with a couple of breaks to like clean up my apartment, right? Eat, that kind of thing. Watch Excalibur again for the 50th time. Have you seen Excalibur, Brian?
Of course.
Dude,
yeah.
I love that. Oh, it's so good. It's like,
Yeah.
Now that I'm older and I can appreciate it, it's like, this is really good. I mean, it was filmed or released in 1981, so you have to forgive some of the conventions of the time, but it's just like a solid epic.
Yeah.
Anyway, so I spent most of my day writing, and I thought I was just going to write little bullet points, and I think this is why I don't like doing outlines. It's because once I start getting into the groove, I start really fleshing it out. And so I started off with some bullet points. In fact, let me just pull it up really fast here. Okay, am I looking at it? Yes, I am. So yeah, I started off with some bullet points, and then it starts to like become paragraphs.
Right.
So we'll get to all of this. I'm probably just going to read it and maybe flesh it out as I speak. Mm-hmm. But the long and short of this is that sorry, I just want to have the right asset up once we get to it. The long and short of it is that I think I've written the movie, essentially. And I feel pretty good about it because now I have a pretty clear understanding of where I'm going to go, what I'm going to write, what things are going to need to happen, and what people are going to say, more or less. So I really think the pages are going to flow quite nicely, barring any objections from you, Brian.
Yeah, I'll just let you know. I did not have time to read the script because just how my day got away from me. But I did read this treatment of the rest of the movie at least 2 times, actually a little bit more than 2 times.
All right.
And man, I got to tell you that this is way more than I expected from you. Like I thought we were going to talk about some highlights of these things, but I mean, I could really follow clearly what was going to be happening through the rest of the movie. That's really exciting.
Oh, totally. And I thought I was just going to have high level stuff too. Like, all right, I got to have this happen. I don't know what's going to be like yet. Just bullet point. But then I was like, I do know what's going to happen. Oh, it'd be cool if he said this. and all of this,
Dude,
the
the little things in there. I'm just like, it's almost like reading your shorthand here.
Yeah.
I get to it's kid smashing time, and I start laughing because
Yes.
because I could tell that when you're writing this that you're really in a creative groove.
I was so creative. Here's how I know I'm getting really creative. When I start thinking up jokes to put in there for you. And towards the end, I almost started writing in little jokes. And I was like, no, let me not do this.
Yes. There's some great stuff in here, though. But I mean, like I said, it was really way more fleshed out than I ever expected. And it felt like, where we left on the last episode, you felt like you needed to kind of try and figure it out.
Yeah.
And for the most part, I feel like you've already done it. Like you've kind of done all the work.
Yeah.
And now I'm just going to be more of a sounding board for what you put together, which is great. I mean, this is way more than I expected, man.
Well, on that note, I don't want you to feel minimized at all because
I'm not
saying you do, but I don't want anyone who's watching this to think that, just because I've kind of mapped this out that I'm just looking for validation now from Brian, because his notes from the last episode, once I was able to step back from it totally made sense. And I feel like I hit one of those creative grooves as I was writing the speech. And I think it comes off a lot better.
Oh, I want to hear it.
Okay. Well, then let's write this movie.
So I'll come back to that after. I have the script up too. So if you wouldn't mind just kind of, since I don't see your screen, tell me what page you're on. Of course. And I'll follow along.
So let me just see here. So I'm not going to point out every little thing because I did tighten up. I did tighten up a lot of the description and the dialogue just to kind of start saving lines and saving pages because I was concerned with how much more I needed to write. And I don't even know if I'm going to, considering, the to-do list I've presented, I don't know that I'm going to fit that all in 50 pages. So we'll see. But what was great is that, getting rid of these orphans, they're orphans, right?
If it's on another, orphans is when it's on another page.
Are you sure? It's a widow? Is it a widow then?
No, widow's on the other page.
There you
orphans
go.
On the next line. You're
okay. Right. Yeah, just killing these orphans. They really started to save pages. I was amazed. I was like, yes! I think we ended on page 69 before. And once I was done winnowing, is that it? Is that the word, winnowing? What am I trying to say here, Brian?
You're tightening up the script. You're reducing the...
Yeah, isn't there a word winnow? I know that's a fish. Winnowing. Am I saying the wrong word? Am I confusing it with a different word?
I don't know now.
Okay. Sorry, everybody. This is going to kill me. Gotta Google it.
Uh-oh.
I know. I rarely do this.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just saw winnowing.
Stop me from doing it.
Okay, hang on. Winnow.
Was that a mechanical keyboard I heard?
I play video games, Ryan. What do you want? Wow, am
click.
What the hell? Am I way off? To remove something such as chaff by a current of air.
No, I guess it could still be used that way, though.
Well, here's the second one. To free of unwanted or inferior elements.
All right.
What's the thing you do with wood? Whittle. That's the thing. I think I was confusing the two, but I do also mean winnow. So, once again, I am correct. Even if I wasn't quite sure of it. Okay.
We'll just call this episode Validation.
Validation. That's what this whole project is. It's all just validation. All right, so back to the script.
Wait till you hear my my conversation with you for our last episode.
Why? What do you
have
mean?
Something prepped.
What?
I have something prepared for you.
For this episode?
No, for our last episode.
You have something prepared for me. Oh, okay.
that I can't bring up until the last episode.
I see. I thought you meant our previous when you said last. Okay, I get it.
Our ultimate, not our penultimate.
For this season or forever?
For this season, forever. See ya. For this season. Once this script is locked.
What I meant is when we've decided to end this whole endeavor, do you have something? But okay, good. No. For this season. Okay, excellent. Okay. Anyway, so getting back to the script, here we are. Let me see.
God, I hope you rewrote some Stanley stuff.
Scrum at 5. What else we got here? None of this is really that important. Well, let me just add one thing. So in the montage at the bottom of 6 and top of 7, I had considered extending this and actually making it less of a montage and more of a series of scenes where there's dialogue, just to kind of establish some of the townsfolk that play bigger roles. So, for instance, we would actually see Carl's family getting slaughtered by the bandits, by the Indian bandits, rather than just make the connection later that it's Carl's family that gets slaughtered here, right?
Yeah.
Also,
I don't think it's necessary.
Long and Bao were going to stop by Maggie's farm to like water their horses. And, we would be introduced to Maggie, Ray, and her kid. We wouldn't know what the connection is yet. We'd just see them, right? Maybe there'd be an interaction with Petrov, have more of a foundational element between the prospectors and Old Man Prophet. But I thought, well, and also introduce Jebediah in this as well, and the fort. But then I thought, well, is it necessary? Are people even going to remember these people when we finally get to them earnestly or in earnest later in the movie? So I just left it alone because I couldn't answer that immediately.
I think it was a good move because we're 5 minutes in to 10 minutes in the actual movie, and you can only take in so many characters at once. And I want to concentrate on these characters you've already introduced anyhow. Okay. Because they're kind of like the top of the good guys and the top of the bad guys really are all here. I really don't want to even think about anyone else other than this is, to me, this is one of those benefits of second viewings. People will go back and go, oh, okay, that's cool. I see where that came from. But I think it plays just as well without. Like, when Carl, the Carl issue happens and the other ones you just mentioned, I don't think it's going to add anything.
All right. So the first big addition is, let me see here. Where are we? Hang on, Brian. Hang on.
Did you name, when you just said Maggie's Farm, I didn't even think about that, but isn't that a Bob Dylan thing?
Heck if I know.
Maggie's Farm?
I'm not Googling that. All right. So this is bottom of 16. I introduced Patrick, the bank clerk, and his little situation, which is he is the object of desire of this woman named Plain Jane, a homely woman.
Is that homely woman?
Yeah, that's homely woman.
Okay, because when I was reading the treatment for second half, I totally figured that's who that was. But I'm like, who's Patrick?
Yeah, Patrick. So the bank clerk, he in the previous version of the script, he was just known as bank clerk, and his whole role so far is to look in awe at Prophet's ore of silver dumped on his desk. Oh, that's a big ore,
So is Patrick's first scene on 16?
Yeah, at the bottom of 16. So he now has an introduction here in dialogue.
Okay.
And his own little dilemma.
You need to caps him for 16.
Oh no, I'm sorry. His introduction is in the flashback when Zeke talks about the thing. The whole score.
Okay.
Yeah. So this is after Stan has talked to Everett, and Everett says, "Yeah, okay, bring the posse in." And so Stan's going to Porter's, and he's crossing the street, and there's Patrick, who is, he's at wit's end. He's looking for for help from the law to get this woman to stay away from him. So, you know, Sheriff, he's Irish. He's just like an Irish guy. Sheriff, you have to help me.
Do it, man.
And, you know, and you got Stan. I'm just going to read these lines. Patrick, what is it this time? Patrick, she won't leave me alone. Isn't there anything you can do? Stan, there's no law against being in love. Sorry, son. Anyway.
Stan walks away and Patrick's shoulders.
Oh, we're doing this, huh?
When he turns to go, plain Jane, 20, a homely girl, is there next to him, smiling innocently. She plucks a petal from a flower.
Plain Jane, he loves me. Patrick, I have to go to work.
Patrick runs off and plain Jane plucks another petal.
Plain Jane, he loves me not.
Such a fun payoff later. I
Oh,
hope
yeah.
that this is memorable enough that, you know, it's going to have to be like very like visually, you know, alarming. Like this is what's happening.
So,
you know what I mean? Because of such a payoff later.
Oh yeah, totally. And you know, and we can always, in second draft we can go back and kind of insert more if necessary. But this is where I want the first jump scare to happen, where he's talking to the sheriff, and the sheriff, you know, can't do anything about it, walks off, and when Patrick turns, she's right there in his face. You know, you've seen those shots, right, Brian?
Of course, yeah.
It's so good.
I know you don't want to write direction in there, but do you want to put something that, you know, as if appearing from nowhere? I know you don't want to add a line, but
I think they'll get it.
You think so?
I think they'll get it. I don't know. Who knows? Who knows what's going to happen? Maybe this will get turned into some kind of like indie art house flick. And it's all in black and white and silent, you know? Who knows?
Yeah, the whole movie gets called Pat and Jane, and it's a totally different spin on it.
Oh. Hey, man, as long as I get paid.
It begins the same way and it ends the same way for those two. And everything in between is different. We did a slight rewrite, Renee.
Yeah, exactly.
It's not Renee's rewrite. Oh.
All right. So that is the first big change. Trying to think. What other
and
big
plain
changes?
Jane is the one who gets the potion later, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
She's the one in bed. And, okay.
So I inserted after at the top of 21, after Maggie and Everett, we established that they have this kind of quasi relationship. Everett leaves, and before we cut back to Long basically accepting the job that Zeke has set up for them. But I've inserted a scene in between that where we are now inside Porter's with Maggie, Ray, and Tommy, and there's a new character, McBully. So we got McBully here.
Okay.
He has no name, and no one ever says his name. This is a descriptive name for the reader, just so that we know who he is and what his role is in this movie, McBully. And so McBully is basically a fellow student of Tommy's, a contemporary, if you will. If 7-year-olds can have contemporaries. And he sees that Tommy's playing with his little piece of wood, his wooden gun. McBully wants to take it away, and Maggie's kind of like struggling with him, so there's a line here, "Get away from my son." So that's going to come back later in the second half of the film, where when all the children have become infected, she gets to kill McBully when it's kid smashing time, right? She gets.
Do you want to read this one?
No,
McBully
not really.
McBully and McBeardy.
It's actually not that interesting to read. It's all very straightforward dialogue. So basically, Ray gets involved to pull McBully off because he's a beefy 7-8-year-old, and there's a racist in Porter's as well who's shopping, and that is Beardy. It's a guy with a thick beard, an old man with a thick beard. And so, you know, he's a Southerner who, you know, his line here at the bottom of 21, "Just because we lost the war don't make you he's saying this to Ray, a black guy, don't make you equal. Hell, we'd hang you for touching one of us," because Ray is holding McBully on the ground. And so before Ray and Beardy get into a fight, Stan basically, you know, ushers out Beardy. And so there you go. We now have kind of like this nemesis for Ray in the movie. So this is something I wanted to touch on in the discussion of what I've added is that I like it when the, I guess, major characters, I mean, I don't know if Ray qualifies as a major character, but for the purposes of this conversation, let's just say he is. I like it when these characters have their own little arc within the movie. And I always try to make my movies, you know, when I talked about writing complex scripts, you know, maybe that's kind of overstating things, but I do like to try to give every character, you know, their own little story within the story, some kind of resolution to them, some kind of goal, you know, where we can say, oh, you know, this guy had this altercation way in the beginning, and it's really minor, and maybe you don't even really remember it, but you will, your brain will, when Beardy shows up at the end as a monster, and he squares off with Ray, you feel a little more, it's a little more valuable within the story.
Right.
And also with Maggie and McBully. So there you go. I gave them their own little nemesis. Baby, please. Mr. 305. Okay, Brian. So there you go. Did you want to say something?
I think that's good. I mean, it's really more in relation to what you wrote for the second half, but it still kind of ties in, and that is that as I was reading through it, I was thinking about the pairings and what's happening, and the ones I really want to see. Like, I want to see, I mean, obviously anything that happens between Long and Everett, I want to see, but I want to see Long and Sam square off. I want to see Long and Bao. I want to see Zeke and what's her name?
Sally.
Zeke and Sally. You know, I want to see what happens between Everett and Maggie. Just all these different pairings I want to see. So I think anytime you can do this, you know, I think it's going to pay off a relationship, even if it's just one little scene to help pay off what happens later. I think is cool. So it's not just like, you know, random guy that gets killed or random guy that kills.
Yeah.
You know, it means more.
That's exactly it. I always feel like when I watch a horror movie and just, you know, the town mayor or whatever gets killed randomly, even though he had a little bit of dialogue in the beginning, it's just like, well, you could have done a little more with that. Maybe he gets killed ironically because this person, you know, well, you know what I'm saying. Like, you could just write a little bit more. What's that?
Didn't vote for him and never will. Never has to again.
Perfect. See? Exactly. Yeah. Look at that. All right.
McMary.
McMary. Okay. Let's see I don't think anything else big happens actually after that. I just tighten up everything.
Okay.
And then we get to the new pages last week's new pages that I fixed. So let me just get down there. Oh, I did change a couple of things. I did change that it's Everett who kills Miss Stapleton. Before I had Stan do it because Everett hesitated.
Mm-hmm. Oh, okay.
But I liked your feedback on that. And, you know, it's not a problem for Everett to do it. He just does it at the last moment.
Okay, cool.
Yeah. Okay.
So something that's going on behind the scenes during this live recording is that I'm on a Mac and it's tied to my phone, and I'm getting text messages from my niece, who has decided that now is a good time to tell me where to go when I'm visiting. Yeah. And as of right now, I've got, you can't really see it, 29 texts that have happened over the last 5 or 10 minutes. That's just constant dinging, which is interesting to try and keep my, you know, my train of thought with you. And I don't know how to turn it off on the Mac, just sort of just shut the hell up. So this is great.
Yeah.
Great timing.
Hey, you know what, Brian? The future, here's what the future is going to be. You're going to have to pay extra to remove these things, to have the option to like have it not like beam directly into your brain. Did I tell you I have this idea for like a dystopian future, or like a sci-fi movie where the cheap rooms in a hotel, the walls are all just digital advertisements.
Okay.
And you have to pay at like the high-end rooms are the ones that are like quiet. Right? All the other, like, we'll say entry-level rooms, you're just bombarded with ads. Like, everything is an advertisement.
Yeah.
And maybe, like, even the cheapest rooms, it's just, like, beamed into your brain. So, like, you just have to deal with it. You know?
Right.
Like you go outside and, you know, like, the walls and, like, the billboards are all blank. But it's because it's being projected into your brain. When you look up there, you see it. You know what I mean? How awful would that be? Like, you can't shut out the world. Like, they force it into your mind. Ooh,
that would be the worst.
That is the worst.
The only issue I have with that idea is that you're probably going to be advertising to the people who can't afford the better rooms and the better, you know, the quality of life that you're talking about. So they're the worst ones to advertise to.
Well, I think that even poor people buy stuff.
Get rich soon. Lottery. Get rich soon. Lottery.
There you go. Exactly.
It's all something you can advertise, right?
Yeah.
You got the next great idea? Patent it. You know?
Bingo.
Yeah.
Bingo.
All right. Solve my own issue. It sounds like a Black Mirror issue or episode, by the way.
Oh, okay.
Like it could be.
Yeah. Well, there you go. I guess I'm going to pitch it to them next time.
There you go.
All right. Where was I? Okay. So we are close. So I'm on 58. Let me see. I tighten this up. Okay. So 59, middle of 59. This is where I started changing things. So let's see. I'm trying to think of what to start with. Okay, so we'll start with Jebediah. He says, Jones, have the men police these bodies, then separate the wounded. Jones starts going about doing this. He's just following orders. And Jebediah, what I envisioned now is that Jebediah's trying to make sense of all of this. This is crazy, right? This is crazy. Like, he just shot this zombie. He's never heard of a zombie before, never experienced a zombie, but he sees how zombies work now, right? And while he's doing this, he's hearing the soldiers, like, they are aghast at what just happened, right? So I have Soldier 1, they're looking at their comrades, right? That one over there. That one over there is McHenry. I grew up with him. My God. Soldier number 2. And maybe they're not even talking to each other. They're just muttering to themselves,
Yeah.
I knew all of these men. I served with them during the war. Soldier number 3. They were my friends. I killed my friends. God, forgive me. And then, Jones comes back. The sick or the injured guys have been separated. They don't know what for. Maybe they think, oh, this makes sense. This way they can treat us better. That's all not stated overtly here. But now, Jeb, this is the big speech, and I took your notes that it should be about protecting people. And what I did is, when I had a vague understanding that when you enlist, you take an oath to protect the country. And I wasn't sure how far back that oath went. Apparently, it goes back to the beginning of the country, like Revolutionary War, and it hasn't changed much. So I was like, wow, that's cool to know, right?
Yeah.
And it basically says, when you're an enlisted man, that you swear to protect the Constitution of the United States against, all enemies, foreign and domestic, right? At least that's the verbiage now. Before it was that you swear to be true to the United States of America, and to honestly and fairly, to serve his country honestly and fairly against all enemies, opposers whatsoever, is what he said, is what the oath is. And so Jebediah, he plays on that. I don't know if that's really the right terminology, but basically he reminds the men. You can call it manipulate or whatever, but I think, if I was a commanding officer, I would remind the men as well. Like, that's what I would fall back on if I had to task them with something that was just awful.
I think, actually, I think it's not only that, I think this is the right direction, because when their heads are all screwed up with what's going on, he can help ground them very quickly in something that they can all literally rally around, and something that's very familiar to them. And I imagine, especially at this time, when you're enlisting, it's more of, maybe even now, when you're enlisting, it's not like you're being drafted at this point, right? So if they're enlisting because they want to, then he's really going to help anchor them in an actual reality versus this thing that they're experiencing. So I think this is a good move to start off the speech like this. And
I have the company responding, they're kind of disorganized, so, very muted. Yes, sir.
Then I think you should do this part, man.
Huh?
Because it's all new. I think you should just perform this part rather than describe it.
All right.
It takes longer to describe.
Yeah, that's fine. Jebediah. Man, when you enlisted, you affirmed to be true to the United States of America, did you not?
The company gives a muted, yes, sir.
Jebediah. And you swore to serve this country honestly and and faithfully against all enemies, opposers whatsoever?
The company gives a louder, yes, sir.
Jebediah. Man, we have a new enemy. Not man, nor savage, or beast. This enemy is sickness. A plague unlike anything we've ever seen. This disease turned our comrades, good men to the last, into monsters. And as difficult as it was, you men fulfilled your duty to protect this land. The impossible decision you made today will save countless lives well into the future.
The company stands a little taller. Jebediah looks at the wounded men gathered by the wall. They stand with pride.
Jebediah, for your actions here today, you are all already heroes, and your names will be spoken of with pride by generations to come, so that your sacrifices will not be forgotten.
The company cheers.
Jebediah. Lieutenant Jones, you may proceed. Jones. Firing squad! Ready!
A portion of the front line of men aim their rifles at the wounded. The men are confused at first, but then realized.
Private. Wait!
The man has a bite on his hand. He breaks ranks.
Jones. Aim! Private. For pity's sake, Captain, please! Jones. Jebediah. Hold! And I think all of this is the same.
Yeah.
So, I took away a couple of the lines here where Jones is kind of like subsuming Jebediah's role here.
Right.
I liked your feedback, that it really should be Jebediah giving the commands. So, Jones is just, he's giving his feedback for the captain to consider rather than controlling the situation.
Right.
So, when Dodson offers the gangrene, cut off my arm like it's gangrene, Jones says, you don't know that will protect you. You don't know we'll be safe. So, when Dodson's now hysterical, please spare me, please. Jebediah pulls his revolver and fires a bullet through Dodson's heart. And Dodson is like shocked, right? And Jebediah, this addition from you, Brian, Jebediah is like, no. And then, he nods to Jones, and Jones says fire. Firing squad kills everybody. And I like this addition from you as well, Brian. Jones asks how many times do we have to kill them? And, Jebediah shoots Dodson in the skull twice.
Nice.
Right? I think it's good. It's good until, I can think of something better. But right now, I think that's awesome.
Yeah. So a couple things. Let's go back for just a second to the lines which were at the bottom of 59 with the soldier.
59. Okay.
Yeah, the soldiers 1, 2, and 3.
Yeah.
So when you started reading this, actually, you were talking, and of course, I can't help myself but read ahead as you're talking through this.
Yeah,
and I'm just like, I'm envisioning the movie at this point, which I think is the best feedback to get. Like, I'm not stumbling,
right?
And it's funny because as this was happening, I had like these two different things that happened. As the soldiers were talking, I found them off screen. Right. Sure. And I found like Jebediah is just kind of talking, and is surveying this, or he's like surveying the situation. And I could just see the carnage, and it's just like panning around him. And these soldiers are talking off screen. And then when Jebediah is talking later, I could see the opposite. Like Jebediah is talking, and all of a sudden you're seeing the reactions of all the soldiers, and they're just kind of perking up, and their chests are starting to, to fill out a little bit, and they're starting to come to, their shoulders are going up, and like, I could like envision this whole scene happening. It all came alive in this version, man.
Yeah. As I was writing it, I was like, I was finding that groove, It's all about finding that groove and just writing it until it shallows out.
Totally. And I think that, I mean, I don't know who would play this because, like, in your head, you go somewhere, right? So for some reason, should I tell you who I have in my head?
Do it. Yeah.
Jebediah?
Why not?
I got Charlton Heston. Jebediah. He's just like graveling through the whole thing. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Just a badass. Maybe it's because we talked about Chuck. I don't know, but
yeah. Well. He's dead, Brian, sadly.
I know.
And I think I'd have to.
That doesn't stop people.
Well, I know. Days. Hey, they're bringing back Roy Orbison as a hologram, right? You can actually attend concerts with holograms now. So,
that's right.
I think we'd have to elevate the rank as well. I think captain might be a little too low for a guy that old.
Right.
I'd hate to be a captain and be 72 or whatever.
Yeah. Well, he'll be 50. Doesn't matter if we're going to bring him back.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Middle-aged Chuck.
All right. So this ends with, just capping it off with his men. Now they're, they are more or less on board. And, Jebediah says, "Man, this terrible and awful responsibility falls on us. And our resolve in this endeavor must be unwavering. Are you with me?" And then now that they've all participated in this, the company roars,
It's all earned.
Yeah, that's what I mean.
It's all earned now. And he's led with his actions.
Right.
And his words. So I'm like, yeah. It's totally it's now.
So now we go back to Epitaph, and I kind of beefed this up. I added a little scene in front of the storefront so that we orient ourselves. Right now there are only a few places within this town that I have described, and I don't want the town to feel small, right? I don't want it to feel like it's just one street, right. And all the stores are on the same street. So I've added this new location called Abandoned Storefront, even though it's just within eyesight of Zeke and Sally's saloon. Mm-hmm. It is kind of a new location where they're herding all of the undead. So I'm just going to read the description here. The townsfolk of Epitaph have done a good job of rounding up the infected and undead and corralling them into an abandoned building. Outpost soldiers and men of all backgrounds work under the guidance of Father Espinosa. So I give Father Espinosa a little bit more to do in this movie up to this point, where it explains why they're not just killing all the zombies. They don't know that they're zombies. They don't know what's wrong with them.
Right.
Yeah, as far as they can tell, they look like they are alive, right? And so Father Espinosa says, be gentle. Remember, they are all God's creatures. They're just ill. So that's why they're doing their best to keep them alive and just push them into this building because they can't control them.
Totally makes sense.
Yeah.
Some of the wilder infected are lassoed and dragged on horseback.
Yeah.
I like that.
And then, of course, the windows are getting boarded up. All right.
Yeah.
So Sally and all of that doesn't really change much. Let's get to Carl in the doctor's office. So this, it sounded like you had a big problem with it last time, and I totally agree. So I changed it up a little bit. So Carl doesn't want to leave. After Doc says, okay, now you're good to go, Carl doesn't leave. Doc Murphy looks over at Stan. Like Doc doesn't know what to do. So Stan's like, Carl, why don't you wait outside? We got to talk to Doc. Carl, no, I failed her once. I ain't leaving her side no more. Stan. Oh, I'm sorry. Stan puts his hand on Carl's shoulder. So now it's starting to get a little physical, right? Stan, take it easy. We just want to. Carl moves into a defensive position between Molly and the men. He looks for a weapon and finds a scalpel. Carl, take it easy. Nothing. You stay away from her. Everett, put the scalpel down. She's sick. We want to help. Carl, like you help, bud? Like you help that schoolmistress? God gave my girl back to me. I ain't letting you take her away. So now the men are kind of like surrounding him because they see that he's like this danger now.
Yeah, he's getting hysterical.
Yeah. So when Ray moves forward, Carl points a scalpel at him, right? I'll just read this. Instinctively, Carl puts his hand on Molly, but his fingers are too close to her mouth, and she bites at him, right? And when he feels that, she doesn't bite him. He's already bitten, doesn't really matter. But when he feels the movement, he gets distracted, and that's when Everett pounces on him, knocking Carl out.
Yeah.
Because Everett is really good at that, apparently. Just knocking people out. It's what I do.
Not with the butt of his gun, huh? Just knocks him out.
Boom.
Bam.
Exactly. God, I love my job.
That's good for me.
Mm-hmm. All right. So this line probably needs a little work, but I just wanted to explain why Stan leaves. Stan's like, damn it. Let's put him in the cell. And so this gets Ray and Stan out of there. And so now it's just Everett and the Doc, and they can kind of like talk a little more frankly. So I know you didn't like this line, but I thought it was appropriate. I think it's almost ironic. And so Everett says, okay, Doc, what is this? Now, one of your notes was that Doc seemed a little too, like, even keel in this whole thing. Like, he's just got these two zombies here in his office, and he's like, oh, well, I don't know. Just let me look at this clinically. Well, this one, she's missing her brain, but she's still moving around. Guess that's fine. So I now have him going into a medicine cabinet, and he's got a flask of whiskey back there behind all the medicine.
Yeah.
And he reaches for it, and he starts drinking, right? And I think that'll be a nice visual, since so far we've seen him be like this very like grounded guy, and now he's drinking because of what he's seeing. Right. So the dialogue is the same.
So before we go too much further, a couple things. So as far as Doc drinking, that totally makes sense now. It gives him a really neat little nuance and a little bit of another layer, which I dig. You might want to consider, he's like in the middle of his sentence and he just pulls out a flask from his pocket. Doesn't even go in extra. He's always drinking. He's always even keeled because he's always drinking. It's just that's just who Doc is. Okay. He's self-medicating. It's the Doc.
That can work.
And then, damn it, let's put him in the cell. I guess my only issue with that is, again, if it was me and I was in that situation, I probably would just tie him up right there.
Tie him up in the doctor's office?
Yeah, just tie him up wherever he is. He's not like he's superhuman strength or anything. They don't know that he's infected yet.
Well, I don't know. I think that it's just kind of weird to tie somebody up. Like, is that even common practice? Like, hey, this guy's a little unruly. Let's just tie him up. Tie him up and put him in this chair. And now he's just sitting there, like, mouthing off to everybody.
Yeah, maybe if he's I know you don't want to add lines. I almost feel guilty asking for lines, but
it's fine.
Let's put him in the cell until he cools off or something like that. Yeah. Just to kind of, that's a place where he's secured. We can concentrate on what we're doing. Then it makes more sense. It just feels like it needs a little bit more. No,
that's fine. How about I can probably fit that into one line. Let's let him cool off in the cell. Something like that.
Yeah, so he's not like under arrest or something.
Yeah.
And they know he's just a troubled guy because his daughter's been hurt, so let's let him cool off in the cell. Yeah.
Totally.
Yeah. I want to have these notes for you afterwards, by the way. So
what's that?
Yeah. You're gonna have to go on memory or rewatch this.
I'm just gonna rewatch this. I'm the only one who watches these things, Brian. I just have it playing while I sleep.
Now, if people do hear this in the future, because we have such a huge audience of let's say 5 or 6, understand that I just don't like watching myself. If it was just René, I would watch this every single time, and he knows that's true. All right. And if we're lucky, we're going to get some episodes like that are René only.
Hey, you know what? We can do that. You want to do that? You want to just be this disembodied voice?
No, I'm talking about.
I can look up. What now, Brian?
The other. No, you should. No, I'm talking about the little ancillary shows that you want to do. Those I'll watch. Where it's just you.
Oh, I see. Yeah. No, of course, I hear you. The fact that I don't have time to even give you the descriptions for the podcast version of this, the audio version, that tells you how much faith you should have in the mini shows throughout the week.
Yeah.
Okay.
You should have done a review on Excalibur.
I thought about it, and I thought this is something I'd love to talk about.
Yeah.
Like why it's so good and why, it speaks to me and all of that. But, it's just not related to this project. So in a future project, absolutely. All right. So, I changed something here where when small girl dies, Doc doesn't say, it's always a tragedy when the little ones go. Instead, he just says, she's gone. She's gone. Or
there
whatever.
You go. It's like, voice are confusing
He
me.
drinks now, man. Come on. Yeah. He's gone. She's gone. Whatever. Okay. So those are the big changes there.
Yeah.
I do have, when Everett is talking to Maggie outside on 66, I did add that he has a room at the Grand. I assume people are going to know that means a hotel at the Grand, and that she should take it. And then I also have that Stan comes out after dealing with Carl in the cell. We don't need to see that, but Stan comes out, basically does what I think a sheriff would do, is he starts kind of like putting the people at ease. Like, hey, it's under control, right? So he says, folks, this is all real confusing. We working. God damn it. we working real hard. That's weird, Brian. We're working hard to figure it out, but right now it's under control, and you shouldn't let it interfere with your lives. We'll have a town meeting once we have some answers.
Yeah, you might want to even be stronger with that, because the police person would probably even exhibit more control than this. Folks is all under control,
Yeah.
Or, you know what I mean? So it's even more,
But would they say that though, Brian? Control? Like, is that a concept?
What
back
do you mean?
Then? Like right now I can see police saying it to...
I'm just reading your lines, under control.
Of course they would say it, Brian. Come on. How dare you call me out on while we're recording? How dare you?
But would they really have town meetings, Brian?
So anyway, Brian, you were saying you were giving me some good notes here, some good feedback.
Oh, just the idea of exhibiting more control than you have, I think would be something that people would understand, would be said by a police officer. Okay. You know what I mean? So I wouldn't even the part about working real hard to figure it out and have a town meeting when we have answers. Just go about your business. Everything's under control.
All right.
I mean, not to fall into cliche, but I think something like that would be okay here.
Okay.
Even if he's, not.
Yeah. I don't know. I feel like I want to add some dialogue here with townsfolk, like just yelling questions from the crowd, just to make this seem a little more alive.
Mm-hmm.
Does that make sense?
Yeah. Do you want to actually write it out though?
Of course. Yeah, I'm thinking of doing that. Extend this thing into half a page, just have freaking 3 townsfolk saying, "What's going on?"
My only issue with that is, dude, I read the second half of this movie. It's even less than the second half of this movie.
Yeah.
You've got a lot there.
I know. That's a whole movie by itself.
I kept reading. I'm like, wow, there's a lot of stuff here. This is dense.
Yeah.
Because this is dense.
That's really dense.
So when I see things like you're talking about adding more here,
I know, be nice. Right? This is my dilemma.
I think I would just put it like I'd probably put this in the old parking lot, come back to it.
All right.
If you're like, I actually have a half page to kill here. Cool.
Okay. That's a good idea. Let's do that.
I don't know if it's really necessary. I think you can get the point across with this minimalistically.
Yeah, I'll just say in the exposition right before that, Ray joins Maggie while Stan addresses the growing murmuring crowd. That way, the Foley guy can just like add murmur.
Or it could be the anxious.
Hubbub, 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 hubbub. Do you know what that's from, Brian?
I can't remember exactly, but I know that there are certain words they say in the background.
Oh, well, I'm actually quoting a very specific movie. It's Christopher Guest does these mockumentaries.
Of course.
And the first one I think he did was called Waiting for Guffman. And it's near and dear to my heart. Have you seen this movie?
Of course.
Oh, okay, great. Well, that's near and dear to my heart because I used to do theater, right? Regional theater, community theater.
Yeah.
And it's like it perfectly captures, in a hyper realized way, but it perfectly captures a lot of what community theater is like. And there's just a scene where the actors on stage are basically directed to, like discuss because this new information happens, and they just turn to each other and they make these sounds, hubbub, 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 hubbub. It's just hilarious to me. Anyway, that's what they'll do here, Brian. Hubbub.
Hubbub. I believe his first mockumentary was Spinal Tap, by the way.
Oh, that's right. That wasn't his, though. That was Rob Reiner's.
I think Rob Reiner directed it.
Well, yeah, but I know Christopher Guest was in it, but it's Rob Reiner's film. The other, like Waiting for Guffman.
Did he actually write it, though?
Yeah, those are all Christopher Guest mockumentaries from that point on.
I thought he wrote Spinal Tap as well. I know he wrote like Best in Show and all those other ones, but...
Oh, well then, I don't know, Brian. I just don't consider Spinal Tap a Christopher Guest one because it wasn't his completely. But that's fine. We'll throw it in there. We'll throw it in. The Black Album, I just love that. It's so black. So good. Okay. Where was I? What were we doing? Okay, so more missed words here. Long, when Everett walks in there, Long is no longer just like looking at him steely-eyed, right? He's like looking at Carl, who's unconscious on the ground next to him, and Long says to Everett, he's supposed to say, thought I was getting lonely. But instead, he just says, thought was getting lonely. Anyway.
And Everett says, he interfering with investigation.
The strange disease. Everyone's becoming a caveman. All right. So I did get rid of the whole, watch your back, Marshal. Watch your back. So now it just ends with, from what I've seen, it isn't safe to stay here either, or stay either. And that's as Everett is exiting.
Okay. Yeah, it's good.